Good morning, students. Welcome to Learning Science Q&A, and we are here again with our second lecture of the chemical effect of electric current. Students, during our previous lecture, we did till the magnetic effect of the electric current, although it was just a recap of the previous class learned. Now, coming to the point, how does electricity conducted through different substance? We have learned that electricity can be conducted by different state of matter. So what is the mechanism that acts behind the conduction of electricity by these different materials? So, any substance can conduct electricity when they contain freely mobile charged species. That means some free mobile charged particle must be present with the substance. If they are present, they can move freely and in turn can conduct electricity. In case of solids, when we are talking about the metal especially, so in case of solid, some electrons in the solid are not very tightly bound. That means they are present at the outermost shell of the nucleus or the atom. So these electrons are not very tightly bound and they can move randomly in different direction. Now, their random movement in different direction works when they are under no electric pressure. That means when a voltage is applied, in that case they will move in orderly manner only in one direction. Now we'll look to the formation of ion. So how ions are formed? Ions can be formed by the loss or the gain of electron. That means a metal, or you can say better word is an element, can lose or gain electron, and depending on that it can become a positive or a negative ion. Now we'll just see few examples of positive ion. Always remember, metals are generally converting into a positive ion because they have few number of free electron that can be easily lost. So sodium with atomic number 11, 281 is 11. So one electron in sodium's outermost shell is free. That means this electron can be easily lost, and this will help sodium to become a sodium ion by the loss of one electron in this way. Similarly, magnesium being the atomic number 12 can easily lose two electron, again the outermost electron, and it can become a magnesium ion Mg2 plus. Aluminium with atomic number 13 can lose 3 electron and it can become aluminium ion with Al3 plus. Similarly, non-metal can acquire electron and they can be converted into negative ion. We have one example, iodine, which has one electron freely available in the outermost shell, or alternative to metal, we will say it has only one electron lacking in completing the octet. That means the complete configuration can be achieved if this one electron is gained from some metal or some element. So, iodine, upon getting one electron, gets converted into iodine ion or iodide. Similarly, chlorine, upon getting one electron, can become chloride ion or chlorine ion. And oxygen can take two electrons, that means it has only two electron lacking to complete its full configuration. The atomic number of oxygen is 8 and the configuration we get is 2 and 6. That means if oxygen gets 2 electron, we get its configuration 2 8 and the outermost electrons will be complete. So it can get converted into oxide ion or oxygen ion. Similarly, when these ions are formed, positive and negative ion, these ions can be combined to make a complete ionic bond or a compound with ionic bond. Just take one example of sodium chloride. Sodium is having one electron extra in the outermost shell, which it can donate to chlorine, which is having 7 electron in the outermost shell. You can see it here, right? And upon taking one electron from sodium, the sodium becomes sodium ion, Na positive, and chlorine become chloride ion, chlorine 1 negative, and they can form an ionic bond making NaCl. Similar kind of electron transfer can be seen between magnesium and oxygen, where oxygen is lacking 2 electron in completing its octet. So 2 electron from magnesium can be given to oxygen to form magnesium oxide. Similarly, lithium again having only one electron in the outermost shell that can be easily donated to fluorine, which is having atomic number 9 and only one electron lacking in the outermost shell. So it can easily get and become lithium positive and fluoride negative ion. So the compound formed will be lithium fluoride. Similarly, the same single electron can be given by two lithium atoms to one single sulfur. You can see sulfur is having 6 electron in its outermost shell, lacking 2 electron to complete its octet, and these 2 electrons are given individually by 2 lithium atom that will form Li2S, that is lithium sulfide. So always remember ionic bonds are formed by the loss or gain of the electron. That means one element is losing the electron and the same electrons are getting acquired by the other element. Similarly, now we have seen the conduction in case of the solids, where the conduction is taking place by the proper loss or gain of electron. Now, how does the conduction occur in case of liquid? So, molten metal, like we are talking about solid, if in case of molten state, that means when they are in a fluid state, the current is constituted by the flow of electron. That is what we have seen just in the previous slide. In ionic compound, due to ions, where the ion dissolve in water and the positive and negative ion which are actually present in the uh, solid are now present in the solution. Similarly, when these solids are dissolved in a liquid, in that case the solid ionic compound act as a strong electrolyte because their ion can be present in the solution form. So now the question arises, how does conduction occurs in a liquid? So whenever in a liquid state a metal or ionic solid or any ionic compound which can be dissolved in liquid are present, they break into the electron. These electrons are present in the solution state, and these electrons are free to move from one place to another. These electrons move in a random fashion until voltage is not applied, but once voltage is applied, they move in an orderly fashion. Now, what is the orderly fashion? This we'll see just in our next slide. These are some example of ionic compound: NaCl, NaBr, LiCl, MgO, KCl, MgCl2. We have a long list. Now coming to a point that how does salt solution conduct electricity? Because what we have seen that when a salt or ionic compound or a molten compound is put into a solution form, they are conducting electricity, right? So when a salt is put in a solution form, that means that salt solution is present here, the fluid which is seen here, right? And once it is in a solution form, its ions are dissociated. So till the time there is no voltage applied, they are moving randomly. Once the voltage is applied, the positive and negative ions from the salt, they move in orderly manner. That means the negative ion will move towards the anode, which is the positive electrode, and the positive ion will move towards the cathode, which is the negative electrode. Always remember, this movement will be standard. They will move towards the opposite electrode. That means we'll just take an example of salt, which is our common salt, NaCl dissolved in water. So when NaCl is dissolved in water, the NaCl solution will act as the electrolyte, and when the NaCl which is present in the water will split into its ion, that means we will get Na plus and chloride ions or chlorine negative. So they are able to move freely towards their respective electrodes. The salt water here acts as the electrolyte, that means the solution that can conduct electricity. And when the voltage is applied, ion will move in orderly fashion. Students, always remember, the movement of ion will be random until voltage is not applied, showing that they can move. But once the voltage is applied, their movement will be in particular order. That means the positive ions will move towards the cathode. That means the sodium will move towards the cathode, and the negative ion, for this example, chloride, will move towards the anode. This is how this movement will take place. NaCl acting as the electrolyte or electrolyte solution. Once the voltage is applied, Na will move towards the positive, towards the cathode, and chlorine will move towards the anode. Now, you must have heard that sometime people also or we also get electric current, right? So this happens when sometime people touch main wire, some insulation is being missing from some wire, and if some faulty appliances is working at a high voltage, right? In these cases, there are chances that the current will flow to the ground through the body and it will produce electric shock. There are certain conditions that must be satisfied. That means the circuit must get completed, and this circuit would be broken if you are wearing good shoes or slipper, something insulated at your feet. If you are directly in contact with the ground, there are chances that electric shock will be there, right? So when touching main wire or faulty appliances causes current flowing through the body to the ground, completing the circuit, producing electric shock. Now, we already know that tap water, rainwater, even our sweat contain salt. And we have seen that how these salts are getting dissociated into their ions when they are in a dissolved state. So when these salts are dissociated, they will help in conducting electricity, and it won't be wrong that they will make the case even more severe, because salt water is a good conductor of electricity. So when a body is wet, the current will pass through it with a greater intensity. Now, what do we mean by greater intensity? It doesn't mean that the voltage of the current will get increased. It just means that the severity of the injury will be increased. That means the severity of the shock will depend on the magnitude. That means how much current is flowing through that wire, whether the body is dry or wet. Now, just take an example. If a voltage of 100 volt is there, then it will have only a tingling sensation if the person's body is dry and they are with a proper shoes. But the same voltage will produce a severe effect if the body is wet and the person is barefoot. Barefoot means they are not wearing anything. This is the reason why it is always advised to not to touch the electrical fitting with wet hands, and to use shoes or at least a rubber slipper while handling any electrical appliances, especially during this monsoon season. Now coming to the next point, which what is electrolysis. Now electrolysis being a very important topic from the exam point of view, electrolysis, the process which uses electricity to split water into its component. Water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. It uses electrode. That means electrodes are the conductor of electricity that can carry electric current into non-metal and the other poor conductor of electricity, right? Similarly, electrolysis or an electrolytic cell will always have an electrolyte. Electrolyte will be the solution that will break into its ion when the electric current is applied. The electrodes are specifically of two types. A positively charged electrode is anode, and a negatively charged electrode is cathode. Also, negatively charged electrode will attract the negative ion, will attract the positive ion, and a positively charged electrode will attract the negative ion. So always remember this sequence. Now in this figure we have an apparatus or the electrolytic cell which is showing us the electrolysis of water. Now this is the simplest electrolytic uh, process where we have not added anything into the water. The same water can have some salt dissolved in it and we can get the component accordingly. We have cathode being the negatively charged electrode. We have anode. We have water serving as the electrolytic solution, and we have gas bubbles liberating at the two electrodes. Hydrogen and oxygen both are gaseous in nature. So when the water is breaking down into its component, they are liberated in the form of gas bubbles that can be seen as the deposition over the electrode. Now, this is the exact reaction that is taking place inside the electrolytic cell or during the electrolysis. At cathode, we are having positive charged ion going. At anode, we are having negative charged ion going. Negatively charged ion is the oxygen. That means at anode, we will see the bubbles of oxygen gas. Also, at cathode, we'll see the bubbles of hydrogen. So, this is the exact process of breaking down of hydrogen and oxygen into their component. Many times, specific apparatus is designed to carry out electrolysis, and such apparatus are known as electrolyzers. So basically, electrolytic cells are many times named as electrolyzer. They are used when specific electrolytic process is to be carried on. So these reaction can take place in a unit known as electrolyzer. Now, student, at the end, we'll just see to the different effect of electric current. Again, very important from the exam point of view. Heating effect of electric current is one thing that we have seen, that whenever electric current is flowing through the wire, it produces heat, and this makes the filament of bulb glow. Similarly, we have already seen magnetic effect of electric current that can create a magnetic field around the heating substance. Chemical effect of electric current leads to the production of chemical energy or in the formation of chemical reaction. We have few processes yet to study from the chemical effect. We have one topic still left, and last one is the mechanical effect, which generates mechanical energy in the appliances that we are using at our homes, which makes our fan and motor work because of the mechanical energy. So students, we are taking till here itself. Next lecture, we will have electrolysis applications. Thank you.